I've been a Mario fan for a long time, experiencing a wide array of game genres that the series has to offer. From platformers to RPGs to party games to sports games, Mario's got you covered for pretty much everything. That's why it didn't surprise me when a full game was created based off of a few puzzle levels included in 3D World to further tap into that genre. This game, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, stars one of Mario's most memorable characters, and got me thinking about just how iconic Toad has been. He's been with the series for a long time, has appearances in the vast majority of games, and is generally such a lovable character. The starring role in the game only further solidified my love for this character, and it brought out many unique components of gameplay to the point where now I have the question: how would Captain Toad work if he was included in Super Smash Bros? In today's edition of Smash Concept, we're going to be building a moveset, alternate costumes, and more for one of Mario's most iconic characters. So it's been a while, hasn't it? About 2 years since the last episode of this show? Seems like what you'd want from a series, right? Look, if you've been here for that long and remember the first run of Smash Concept, kudos to you. You've seen a lot of changes since that time, and there's going to continue to be more going forward. But to make a long story short, I'm bringing this show back. There are clearly several candidates for an episode, so why Captain Toad to kick off the revival of the series? Well, it's who was chosen by you guys back at the end of the last episode. I didn't forget who was voted for, and it didn't seem right to come back with a completely different character, leaving our good friend Captain Toad in the dust. Now Decidueye, on the other hand, after that Incineroar inclusion, man, it's gonna be tough now, buddy. I've always thought that Toad made a ton of sense to be included in Super Smash Bros. Sure, he's a generic species of Mario characters, but Piranha Plant proved that that doesn't really matter, and he's still probably more iconic than Rosalina, Daisy, and maybe even Bowser Jr. He's certainly been around longer and included in many more games than that. So when Captain Toad was introduced to give a definitive standout of the Toad species, I knew the potential had increased. This little guy got his own game. That's more than Waluigi can say, and he's been requested for a lot longer by a lot more people. So what stops him? Captain Toad cannot jump due to the immense weight of his backpack. This, to many, completely rules out any possibility of him being included in Smash, and yeah, a character who can't do one of the most integral moves in a Smash moveset wouldn't make much sense, and certainly wouldn't be viable. But here's where we make some changes. For this moveset, we are going to allow Captain Toad to jump. It certainly wouldn't be a jump shulk level of jump, and will likely be the shortest out of the entirety of the cast, just to make it apparent that jumping due to the heavy weight of his bag is hindering that ability, calling back to the game's mechanics. Look, we either do it this way or we don't have a Captain Toad moveset at all, and considering he was chosen by you guys, I'd like to think that people want to see a moveset for him. Something else that isn't really done in his game that we're going to be talking about within this video is Captain Toad taking off his backpack to swing it as an attack. This is going to be done to further emphasize that the bag is heavy to deal some big damage to opponents, but also subtly represent that his bag's weight isn't quite as heavy as it normally is. And maybe there can be a canon explanation for this as well. Since he's not going on an adventure and is instead going to battle, he didn't need to pack as many supplies, thereby making the weight of his bag much lighter. Another mechanic of Captain Toad that I want to get out of the way is I feel he would be a pretty slow fighter overall, to be further tied into his in-game appearance, where he certainly doesn't move very fast. To compensate for this, he'll end up having some pretty powerful attacks, don't you worry. So with the main mechanics of Captain Toad out of the way, let's move on to the alternate costumes. There are many creative possibilities opened up with this segment, and I love to contribute some references to other Toad appearances here. Excluding the default, we have 7 new alts to come up with, and the first 2 I think have to be based on 2 very common different colorations of the Toad species. The first of which is Yellow Toad, who's included in many Mario games and is a common recoloring. Yellow Toad also being the choice to stay in New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, whereas Blue Toad happened to be cut for that game. But even so, Blue Toad is still my choice for alt number 3. While not as popular as Yellow Toad since he was cut from New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, he was included in Super Mario 3D World and is still very common throughout the Mario games. Now look, I could put a bunch of different colorations of Toad, but I think 2 alternate colorations is enough, and for the other alts, we could get a little bit more original here. That's why for alt number 4, I think that Captain Toad should take upon some Toadsworth colors. It would make for a great callback to this character who's appeared in many Mario games over the years and hasn't gotten too much recognition, so that's why I think it would be a great idea to reference him in these alternate costumes. For the remaining remaining 4, I think it would be very interesting if we based them off of Captain Toadette. This would be a very similar situation to Olimar and Alf, as well as the newer Fire Emblem characters that were included in the roster. Captain Toadette is also playable in Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, so it would make sense to give her an inclusion here. So aside from the defaults, we have 3 more alts to base off of Captain Toadette, and I think it would be very interesting for these alts if we base them off of other mushrooms in the Mario series. Since toads are the mushroom people of the Mario universe, I think it would be very cool if some designs from other mushrooms, such as power-ups for example, would be used for these alts. So one that I'd like to see for Captain Toadette is a red one with white dots that calls back to the Super Mushroom power-up. This being the most common power-up throughout the Mario series, it makes a lot of sense to reference it here. Another common item throughout the Mario series would be a 1-up, which we could use as the next alt's inspiration. This would be a light green alt with white dots. And for the final alt, I think it would be really cool if we call back to the Poison Mushroom, which is a hindrance to Mario as it'll damage you if you touch it, but I think the color scheme will be so cool. Dark purple with lighter purple dots. It would be amazing to see this. So with the main style of the fighter and the alternate costumes determined, let's move on to the moveset itself. Let's begin with the neutral attacks and tilts. For a neutral attack and jab combo, I think a punch and pickaxe hit would be very interesting. This would be a lighter pickaxe hit as we're going to be using it for stronger attacks later on. For a forward tilt, I think a forward headbutt would make a lot of sense considering that toads have very large heads and we'd like to utilize that component of the body in the moveset. For the down tilt, Toad will hit the opponent while bending over to look at his map. This would be a great reference to Captain Toad Treasure Tracker where you like to look at the map a lot. For the up tilt, Toad will lift a super gem upwards to hit the opponent with. This would be a callback to Captain Toad Treasure Tracker when Toad will lift up a super gem upon finding it. Now that we're done with the tilts, let's move on to the grabs and throws. I think the grab should be standard, just grabbing you with his hand. But I believe for all the throws and pummels, the pickaxe should be used. Just like a baseball bat hitting a ball, Captain Toad will launch you with a pickaxe hit either forward, backward, downwards, or upwards, depending on the direction of the throw that you input. I think that this would make a lot of sense because you don't really picture Toad or Toadette as having a lot of physical strength because of how small in stature that they are, but you could implement more of the powerful attacks realistically by using a weapon such as this. Up next, I think it's time we ascend high into the sky for the aerials. Now, as I was mentioning before, Captain Toad being in the air is realistically not part of what Captain Toad should do. For the neutral air, I think Captain Toad should spin jump like he does in New Super Mario Bros., a cool reference to one of Toad's most popular appearances. Now, while this may not be something that we see Captain Toad do, he's really not supposed to be jumping anyways, so I feel we could take some more creative liberties here. We're going to be using a pickaxe swing again for the forward and back airs, just to further establish that the pickaxe is a common weapon that you're going to be seeing Captain Toad use, and a great callback to the games. The forward air is going to have a little more reach. For the up air, I think an upward headbutt would be a very cool move. This is going to be the final time that Toad's going to headbutt in the moveset, and I think that twice is appropriate here. You don't need Toad to headbutt too much, but just enough to establish that this is something that you could do to inflict damage. And for the down air, Captain Toad comes slamming downwards because of the immense weight of his backpack dragging him down. This is also a fun reference to how he really shouldn't be in the air. Now I think it's time we tackle some of the most powerful moves in Captain Toad's moveset, the smash attacks. For the forward smash, this is where we're going to be using what I was talking about earlier, and this is a big, powerful swing of the bag forwards. This is going to inflict a ton of damage and knock back to the opponent, and further establish that Captain Toad's bag is really heavy. For the down smash, I think it'd be really cool if Captain Toad spins a wheel and gains momentum to hit the opponent in different directions. It's not really going to matter if the opponent is behind or in front of you when you hit this attack. And finally, for the up smash, Captain Toad is going to pull a weed from the ground, inflicting damage upon the opponent when they're hit with a flurry of coins. In the actual Captain Toad Treasure Tracker game, coins will come up as you pull the weeds from the ground, and I think it would be very interesting if this inflicts damage upon the opponents. I didn't want to have to use the pickaxe in any of these smash attacks, so we got a little bit more creative here. The pickaxe was mainly intended to be used for the aerials and throws to save it a little bit more, but what I was mentioning earlier is we are going to have a more powerful version of the pickaxe used in the moveset. But in order to talk about that, we're going to have to move on to everybody's favorite segment, the specials. For the neutral special, I think a chargeable pickaxe, like we see in Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, would be a great idea here. There would be multiple hits inflicted by Captain Toad upon the opponent, doing a ton of damage to them. For the forward special, I think seeing Captain Toad ride in the minecart would be very cool. Picture Bowser Jr.'s side B as a visual for this. Captain Toad is going to ride in the minecart across the stage and inflict damage on every opponent he hits along his way. For the down special, I wanted to reference Peach in one way. Toad is technically in a Smash moveset already, being part of Peach's counter, where he'll shoot a poison poisonous liquid. But that's not the move that I'm choosing for this down special because it's not really something that we see Captain Toad do in the game. No, this is going to be something that we see Captain Toad do in the game very frequently, and also something that Peach uses, this being pulling up a turnip. This is going to be a fun reference to how Toad began his appearances in Smash Bros, and it'll provide a projectile for him to throw, considering that we don't really have any other projectiles for him to use and he's mainly an up-close fighter. In terms of his up special, his recovery, I believe a clear pipe cannon should shoot him up. This is one of the few ways the Captain Toad actually goes upwards in the Captain Toad game itself. If we were doing a moveset just based entirely off of regular Toad, I think the propeller power-up from New Super Mario Bros. Would be a good idea, but because this is mainly based on Captain Toad, with only a few creative liberties being taken outside of that, like in the aerials, I believe that this recovery should mainly be based on the Captain Toad game itself. And before we get into the final move of the video, the final smash, I think we have to touch on Captain Toad's taunts. The taunts as always open up another possibility for creative freedom here, referencing the game itself and providing something for fans to look at and say, hey, I remember you did that when I played Captain Toad. One of the activities that you do frequently in Captain Toad that's always rewarding with a sense of achievement is finding a power star. So for the up taunts, I think Captain Toad should make a very happy face while holding a power star upwards. There's going to be a big reference to one of the main achievements in Captain Toad's game, and since you normally taunt when you achieve something like knocking your opponent off the stage in Super Smash Bros., this would be very appropriate. For the side taunts, I think you should pull out the binoculars to look around with, an interesting reference to how he actually does this in the Captain Toad gameplay. Now something else that he does in the game is clap very happily. It looks pretty cute. This would be a great idea for the down taunt in my opinion. And with this all being said, we're down to the final move of the video, final smash. There are many possibilities that we could do here, but my favorite possibility is riding on Dragodon. A new screen will appear, Captain Toad's gonna fly in riding on Dragodon and shoot fireballs at the opponents. This move will blast them into oblivion and send them flying. It'll inflict a ton of damage and it will look so cool on screen. Now Wingo could have been incorporated instead, but I feel Dragodon is a lot more iconic and cooler for this type of final smash. This same type of move with all the fireballs shooting at the opponents inflicting a ton of damage would not have that same epic feel as it does with Dragodon. And that's why I feel that this just has to be the final smash. Something that looks grand and epic in proportion, which someone who's never played Captain Toad wouldn't really assume looking at this plump little mushroom. Thank you so much for watching this edition of Smash Concept. If you enjoyed it and want to see the new ones as soon as they release, consider subscribing and ticking the bell icon so you do not miss anything. I have plans to release a new episode of the series sometime soon, so keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, if you have any suggestions for characters that you'd like to see featured on the show, be sure to leave them in the comment section down below, and some of the top rated comments I'm definitely going to have to consider for the show. With that all being said, I'll see you next time.